Hi everyone, I'm doing my spiritual direction reflection for today. And for today, what I'm looking at is, if you look at the secular world, they concentrate on what they call infinite intelligence. So the intelligence that night follows day, that summer will lead to autumn, and that there is a divine intelligence in how our bodies work, how the earth works, how things function. So they don't call it God, but they call it an infinite intelligence in the secular world. And how if you can take your imagination and you can bring in 5 figures that you admire, that you want to learn from, and imagine yourself having a meeting with them around your table and asking them to teach you about the things that they learned. Imagination is very good and it's very powerful, and it brings in auto-suggestion. So if you look at the great inspiring places, like if you look at Disneyland, somebody imagined that before they actually created it. They had an idea of what they wanted to do. They wanted to create something that would allow people to see the beauty in life, and especially for children, to engage their imaginations, to take them into outer space, to make them see the world as a small world, and to embrace different cultures. That's the influence of autosuggestion. It can also work the other way, like when we had Hitler, or when we had popes that actually taught heresies in the church, or things that can bring the spirit down, wear the spirit down over time. Like people constantly telling me that I can't hold a job, I can't hack it, and hopefully your health stays good. So all those messages feed into you, especially if they're coming from family. But you can find a way to deal with them. You can create what I call a safe space in your home, in your mind, in what you are allowing to enter into you. And you can use that to help yourself, because there are some of us who are born with illnesses, who are born with sicknesses, and despite that, we live full lives, we live active lives, and we don't let that get to us. We find ways to overcome it. So, for example, for me, I'm not somebody who keeps my balance. Like when I'm trying to walk on those balancing balls or stand on them, it's not something that came easily to me. I had to learn how to do it. I couldn't keep my balance riding a bicycle, so I kept falling down until I had training wheels put on the side. So that's how it is with our minds, with our imagination, and how we approach things, either with faith or with fear. And it's important to remember that, like in our spiritual direction, in what we're doing, because everybody has fears. Everybody fears poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of somebody we love, and a lot of people fear old age, because with that comes, for some people, infirmity, growing old, illnesses, and then finally death. So I'm focusing on this, fear of losing your health, because sometimes people sit and think about it, and then it becomes like the reality. But sometimes when people are born with an illness, or born with, something that affects them, we learn to overcome it. We learn to not let it get to us, and we strive to live either with that disability in full health, or we strive to find ways to overcome it. We're not hypochondriacs. We're not always worrying about getting ill. We're not always worrying about, fearing the loss of our lives. It's like exercise. If you keep saying, oh, I'm going to do it, you never actually do it. So we start with small steps and we improve from there. And even if we're susceptible to something, so like cold weather is not good for people like me who have high blood pressure. Hot weather is better. But you can still do things to help yourself, to make yourself well, even taking medication to come off it eventually. That's the hope. Like when I had to take antidepressants because I was unemployed, people were telling me I would never get a job. People left me alone. The first Christmas my mother was here, and they all went to the family in America. So all of that affected me, and I needed an antidepressant to help me to get over that hump. I got over it, and I came off the antidepressants. And part of that was my faith that I can do it, I am going to do it, and faith in God. The auto-suggestion was there that I'm capable. And even if I'm not capable, God will bring this about for me. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Even with that faith, sometimes you don't get well. But that doesn't mean you lose your faith in the Lord. And I'm just going to touch on that one today. I'll look at the others. But even things like poverty, cycles of poverty, they create fear. So they'll say, well, like what teleperformance does to me. They'll say to me, well, the economy is depressed and the clients don't want to pay more than $17 an hour, where actually it's rubbish. Because they have campaigns where they are paying people over $50,000 a year. And they're doing it willingly. So it's nonsense. It's not a reflection of my value and my worth. It's a reflection of them. But I'll touch on that more later. I just wanted to go back to this gift of imagination and how we use it in spiritual direction. So when we pray with the saints, for example, we are calling on them, we are asking them to intercede for us, Archangel Michael, our guardian angel, and we know the powers that they have. Through their intercession, we receive their gifts and graces. And we do that with the Lord. The Lord has to stay central to that, because without his birth, death, and resurrection, everything else is meaningless. The lives of the saints becomes meaningless. So instead of you doing that with like 5 ordinary secular people, you can if you want to. You could imagine yourself in prayer with the saints or in prayer with the Lord. That's what St. Ignatius used to do with his daydreams. And his gift was for us, like the Franciscans and St. Alois, finding God in all things. When I look at the saints that we have in our church, the statues that Father Larry has put up, there are different statues which have inspired me to pray with those saints and to go to those saints and to help the organizations that are founded through them. So Saint Therese of Lisieux, for doing small things with great love. Saint Jude, the patron saint of hope, for times like this where I'm going through immense challenges with unemployment, lack of finances, lack of work opportunities, to give me that hope to create my own opportunities like I'm doing now with spiritual direction and my John Maxwell, and continue to look for a good source of income. Saint Joseph for work, because he was Saint Joseph the worker, the carpenter. He's the one who provided for Jesus in his early years, and he was Jesus's earthly father. So for me, he's a spiritual father. Saint Anthony of Padua for his gentleness. Saint Faustina because of her love of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The Trinitarians for Our Lady, help of Christians, and her unfailing help, especially with those who put us into financial debt, who put us into poverty, who take us into slavery. I firmly believe in the power of Our Lady, Help of Christians, and that's also from our Indian tradition in Bombay. My grandparents had a strong belief in Our Lady, Help of Christians. And then Our Lady of Tenderness for her guidance to keep me tender. Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal, asking for her intercession for the graces I need for my life. Our Lady of Knock is not from my church, but Our Lady of Knock came to me during COVID when they had their Christmas hymns, and I happened to go onto YouTube and I was watching it. I had watched other things before, but it's that hope that it brought to help me to find solutions to injustice. And the injustice like the Irish people went through, it's like what Canada goes through. This is an abundant country, yet since the time I came here, they've been fighting about building pipelines or not building pipelines. They're fighting about creating good jobs versus not creating good jobs, and nothing is actually happening. So I'm making my own. I'm doing this John Maxwell. I'm asking Our Lady of Knock to help me not to give in to despair and depression. I'm asking her to stay with me and help me to treasure the things in my heart that I should treasure. Saint Luke, the patron saint of physicians, he is also the most social saint in the gospel writings, to help me and to guide my doctors. So I have 3 cards that I have for Saint Luke, all from my church, and I ask Saint Luke for his intercession, including for when I use my essential oils, when I try different methods to help me to get well when I'm sick. I ask for Saint Luke's intercession. The Franciscans, to use my media missionary work to bring God to others through EWTN, through whatever they send me, and that more opportunities would come from that for me. Saint Ignatius I touched on already, and then Saint Cecilia for my music to be blessed, and that my music would bring joy to others and glory to God. Saint John Bosco, to bless my work with the youth that I come into contact with. Saint John Bosco is also a saint that I got to know through being in Bombay and through those calendars that my mother used to get, my mother and my father, from Bombay. So he's one of the saints I grew up with. Jesus is for me my Prince of Peace, who has conquered the world, the one that the lion and the lamb lie down together with. And having grown up in Africa, that's a very powerful image, because you do see it in nature. You'll see the most ferocious animal sitting beside the most docile one, like a lion and maybe a baboon. But they don't kill each other, they don't hurt each other unless they are hunting for food. And that becomes survival of the fittest. But Jesus for me is that wonderful counselor, that Prince of Peace, the one who he takes a stand against injustice. And Saint Hildegard, to reveal to me the gifts of God in nature and healing of the emotions for my life and others. And Saint Hildegard is one of the saints that I read up on her works, and I read up on her teachings, especially after this investigation closed into this harassment, and people constantly saying they like me, but their actions and their words don't match, and being pushed from one job to the other, long periods of unemployment, and having to face things on my own. I read up a lot on Saint Hildegard, on how she used the gems of the earth, her music, her gifts of revelation that God gave her about how the earth works, that were very contradictory for the time that she was born in. So when we pray, that's how we could take the lives of the saints into our prayer and imagine them sitting with us and ask them to guide us, to help us. Even if you're saying like a prayer from a prayer card that somebody else has written, it's still a way that you're asking for them to take your requests, to take your petitions and your thanksgiving and your praise to the Lord. So that's what I wanted to share today. And all this poverty and all that, it's being created by the governments. It doesn't have to be this way. They're creating it because that's how they want people. They want people sick, taking injections, living off food that's unhealthy, going to doctors, taking psychiatric pills. So because the medical industry then gets more money, and people get sicker and sicker. Our houses are not designed to let in the light. They are contaminated. So all of that, it's building a culture of sickness. If you go to places like Africa, you might find sicknesses that come about like, from flies, from animals, things like that, but you won't get this kind of thing that you have here in North America, where sickness is being perpetuated. Oh, you can't get well, you won't get well without the medication, take the medication, take the medication. That has become very much a part of this culture. And if you come here from other countries, if you come here from other places, it's in your face, you can see right through it. There are some things that are being done to try to change that, preventative medicine, people like the Kennedys trying to stand up to it, but it's so much a part of their culture that they live with this kind of sick culture. And if you stand up to it, they think there's something wrong with you, but there actually isn't anything wrong with you because they haven't been. They haven't gone to Africa, to different countries. They haven't gone and seen the health in other places, the faith in other places. So for them, this is their normal. And so it's different. Like when you come from another place and you come here and you see with fresh eyes what is happening, it becomes very disturbing because it's a push to get medicines into people, to get people into psychiatric care, to get people into counseling, to get people into using psychologists and all that. And even with me, that's why I was so upset when the family told me, oh, you need to go to Sunnybrook, because I didn't. I just needed somebody to be there for me, to offer a listening ear, and nobody was willing to do that for me. So I found that listening ear through the church. But it's not the same as having your immediate family who know you, who know and understand you, being there to listen to you as a friend and as a family member, not as somebody that's clinically going to be treating you. But that's how it goes here. This is the culture here in North America. And if you don't want to do it, they'll say, why don't you take the supports available to you? You should take the supports. You are the problem. Actually, you're not the problem at all. Not the problem at all. But they refuse to see it that way. So those are just tips and pointers for if you're looking for spiritual direction or, work on guided retreats, things like that. These are some of the techniques that I have learned about and that I can help others to learn about and teach others, guide others. And they are powerful ways of praying. Even if we all make time for prayer. We all set aside time for prayer, for reading the Bible, for scriptures. And like I was saying, some people do it with secular people. They imagine how did you learn about this? Whether it was Mr. Ford or whether it was Einstein, they imagine, like they say, how did you learn about this and how can I learn more about it? That's what we do in our prayer, but we do it with the saints, we do it with Jesus, and we ask for that intercession through our prayer. And we come closer to understanding the lives of the saints, what happened to them, how they lived. And the saints went through tremendous horrors, most of them. And some of them even got called Satanists. And Saint Faustina also got taken and put in psychiatric care. So sometimes people don't believe us. They think that, oh yeah, this person is crazy. The saints have all gone through it. Even Jesus went through it with his own family. So we need to remember that in our prayer life. And all these ups and downs of life that happen, this poverty in this world is being created because the World Economic Forum told us that they were going to create it. And Charles Schwab, they told us they are going to make people rent and not own, and that we will be happy doing that. Unfortunately, they didn't understand the human heart, and nobody is happy, including me. So God has given us intuition. God has given us a sixth sense. God has given us our own auto-suggestions to know what is going to bring us to life and to community and to fulfilling our dreams, and what is going to take us away from that. And that's also from Saint Ignatius. We are not called to live in isolation. Even Jesus didn't go out on his own. He went out with a group of friends. He went out with his friends to do his ministry work. So that's something to think about, because this isolation, not working, not having an income, it's all man-made in my life. And I am doing everything I can to change it. Those who created it should also do everything they can to change it and to get me into EY, because that is where I'm supposed to be working for WITS and to help WITS and to help Africa. This teleperformance thing was supposed to be 1 to 2 years. It wasn't supposed to go on for 6 years with me earning $17 an hour, starting at $11.25 an hour. That was not the goal. And I don't feel any sympathy for Credit Suisse. I don't. I'm glad they got caught. I'm glad that everything came out, because people like me who were good to them didn't deserve what they did to us.